Jai Shri Krishna.
Yes.
Today we are starting chapter 16. This chapter is called Daivasur Vibhag Sampada Yoga. In Sansar, both the divine or the Daiv as well as demonical or Asur attributes exist. The Sansar exists on the pair of opposites, Dvand. The divine and demonical attributes make one such pair of opposite. By accumulating the divine, we can transform ourselves, meaning our antakaran, to become more like divine. As we accumulate the divine attributes, our antakaran becomes more like divine. Because what does these attributes do? They change or transform our mindset, our antakaran. It purifies our mind, buddhi, and whole lot of other stuff, and subdues the ahankar, the ego. Due to avidya or the ignorance that is inherent in us, we automatically lean towards the demonical. That is natural for all jeev. But to be like the divine, we must accumulate those divine attributes in us. This we can do through our karma. Everything in this sansar is done through karma. That is the instrument to do anything. Here we have the choice. In chapter 15, Shlok 19, Bhagavan Sri Krishna said, Yo mameva asammudo janati purushottama sa sarv vijati mam sarv bhaven bharata. Bhagavan said, he who is free from delusion, asammudo, who is not mood, who is asammudo, realizes me as the Supreme Person, Purushottam, and knowing all, he knows that the Supreme Person knows all, is Sarvagya. Meaning that he has become Jnani. Who? The person who believes, who understands that there is a Supreme Person who is Sarvagya. And having become Jnani, he constantly worships me with his whole being. Not just sit and do worship, but with mind, body, and whole spirits, everything. He worships me in totality. So now the question is that how to become free from delusion, because Bhagavan said those who are asammud, they become Jnani and they worship me. So what is asammud and how to be free from this delusion, the moha? But first we must know the ways in which one gets to be deluded. You have to know how we become deluded, so then you can find the disease, then you can find the cause of the disease, and then you can get the medication for it. Bhagavan describes 4 ways in which one can get deluded. These are ahankar, the ego, indriyarth, or attachment to the sense objects, prakriti guna, the 3 gunas of the prakriti, and sarvagyan. These are devata gyan. It is notable that all these are mentioned in chapter 3, the Karma Yoga, So, through the karma performed in one or more of these states of delusion, we accumulate the demonical attributes. This leads us to the bondage of the cycle of birth and death. That is the root cause of it. Now, in our lives, only two events are of any importance. Nothing else is important, only two events. One is the birth and the other is death. Because these are integral part of the bondage, the cycle of birth and death. So these are the integral part of this cycle of birth and death. And these are the only two important events that happen in anybody's life. You're born, that's very important, and then dies. Once born, one must die. This is the law. Both the birth and the death are causal factor for each other. If you are born, birth is the cause of death, and death is the cause of birth. The time span in between is what we call the lifespan. Now, if you believe in what you call the moksha, it is of utmost importance as to what you do in the time between birth and death. That's the only time you have to do any action. And what you do in between that, the birth and the death, becomes very important. I'll go on a limb and say that leaving only a few, almost all humans act under one or more states of delusion. People talk big about Gita and the Karma Yoga, but do they understand its reality? The understanding is always reflected in the actions. How a person acts, that's how he understands. In chapter 15, Shlok 3, Bhagavan told Arjuna that one needs to cut a path through the dense canopy of the Ashwatha tree, the sansar. The only weapon for this is asang. This weapon can only be obtained and used as advised by Bhagavan in chapter 7, Shlok 1, where he said, Maya Sakt Manah Partha Yoga Yujyend Madrisha Asanshayam Samagro Mam Yatha Gyayasi Tashunu. So Bhagavan says that he is telling Arjuna to, through exclusive love, attach his mind to him, meaning Bhagavan, and practice yoga with absolute dependence on him, the Bhagavan. Maya Sakt Mana Partha. With all your mind, get asakti or attached to me. In chapter 3, Shlok 22, Bhagavan says to Arjuna, there is no duty in all three worlds for me to perform. I have nothing to do in this world, nor is there anything worth attaining, unattained by me, yet I continue to work. Bhagavan also tells Arjuna, do thou always perform actions which are, and this is important, obligatory, without attachment. Meaning the only actions to be performed are the ones which we are obligated to do. They are obligatory actions. And how should you do that? He said, without any attachment. You just do it because that's your obligation to do. That's it. When it's done, it's done. Don't expect anything out of it. So in this way, one attains the highest. That's what Bhagavan said. So you see that our mind always wants to attach to something. That's the nature of the mind. Mind wants to get attached to something. Say, I want to do this, I want to do that. You are attached to that. When it gets under the influence of one or more of the four things mentioned earlier, it becomes a prey of the powerful force which is called moha, or the state of delusion, and thus gets in the bondage. See, mind is, without jnana, the mind doesn't know what to do. So mind just goes around here and there, and whatever it finds to get attached, they get attached to it. And then as soon as they get attached to the wrong, which most of the things are wrong things, prakriti guna, or indriyarth, so on and so forth. There are four ways to get deluded, and then it becomes a prey to these three gunas. And three gunas just capture the mind and it controls the mind. And then the mind is subordinate. Therefore, it is the single-minded bhakti. Note the word minded bhakti, single-minded bhakti of Ishwar that not only delivers the asang weapon but shows us how to use it. So earlier we saw that to cut a path through this sansar, the weapon to use is the only one weapon which can be used, and that is asang. So when a person does ananya bhakti or single-minded bhakti of Ishwar, nobody else, nothing else, no other entity, that only delivers the asang weapon to that individual and also shows to that individual how to use that weapon. You have a weapon, but you don't know how to use it. It's useless. Now, having said this, we now start this study of chapter 16, in which the division between the divine and the demonical wealth or riches have been described. We must know both of these so that we embrace the former or the divine, and more importantly, know what to avoid, the demonical ones. The word Deva Sur Sampad has three components. The first is Daiv, meaning the divine. The second is Asur, the demonical. And the third is Sampad, the wealth of these attributes. We all come into sansar with these two types of wealth. We all have Daivi wealth as well as Asuri wealth. This is what we have in our account to use during the span of our life. If we have a lot of divine wealth, then we have that much to spend in this sansar, which is divine only. If we have only demonical wealth, then only thing a person or a jeev has to spend in the sansar is demonical wealth. And whatever you spend, that is what you buy something with that wealth. What you use wealth for? To buy something. So, come in sansar, if we have divine wealth, we will buy divine characteristics. Okay, divine guna. If we had demonical wealth, with that only we can buy demonical attributes. So we get both according to our sanskar. These attributes constitute our wealth and defines our swabhav. What is the preponderance of divine wealth, or do we have preponderance of demonical wealth? That defines our swabhav. If there is more divine wealth, then the swabhav will be more divine swabhav. Otherwise, it will be demonical somehow. Some of this wealth we get from ancestral sanskar. Then sanskar which come from the environment of the place where we grow up. That's very important. However, all this is defined by our past karma. Our past karma defines our parents, where we want to be born. The birthplace, where will be born. And its environment, who will be around where we are going to be born, who will be around when we are growing up. And the wealth of attributes which accompanies us in this world is also defined by our past karma. All this is dependent on that one which we call Ishwar. Everything depends on Ishwar. Ishwar made the rule, and according to that rule, our karma defines us, where we're going to be born, who's going to be our parent, what kind of environment we will be growing up, everything. Only a little of this we have some control on. We have no control on majority of this. Little bit of what we can do is we have only very little control what we can do. And we'll come to that, what we can do, on which we have the control on. These sanskars are like accumulating wealth. Wealth accumulation is done a little at a time. You put in a little box and you put few dollars in there every day, it accumulates. That's the accumulation of the wealth. That's your wealth, what you accumulated. Like it is like little bit like a honeybee. What does honeybee does? It goes from flower to flower and gathers nectar. And the taste of the honey depends on the source of the nectar. You see? So what kind of wealth we are accumulating? What is the quality of that wealth? So what it is worth is defined by what kind it is. Just like honeybee goes from one flower to other flower, it goes to orange trees, and then the honey will be tasting more like orange honey, right? Same way, how we accumulate through our karma, that's what the taste of that accumulation of the wealth will be. That's what we can buy. Only that thing will be available to buy with that thing. Like the honeybee, with our efforts, we slowly accumulate these divine and demonical attributes or gunas, one at a time. It's a very slow process. It takes many, many lives. Together, all these make the wealth or the sampati. Although we are born with these attributes, we can change or modify these. If it were not possible, Bhagavan would not have told this to Arjuna. Bhagavan says that although we humans have extraordinarily little control, we do have the freedom to engage in those karma which can bring about the desired change in the composition of the wealth or the attributes which we have. It is imperative that we understand this difficult topic, because in chapter 14, Bhagavan described the three gunas and said that although these cause the bondage, no one can live in sansar without the gunas. This prompted Arjuna to ask as to what is the way to go beyond these gunas. He asked that in Shlok 21. Same was the concern of Sankadik Rishi. They also asked the same thing. So Bhagavan tells Arjuna in chapter 14, Mam chayo abhivacharena bhakti yogen sevate. Meaning, abhyavicharan bhakti of mine, the one who does that. Sa guna asanmati tetan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Bhagavan says that he too who constantly worships me, sevate, who constantly worship me, through the yoga of exclusive devotion or ananya bhakti. The operative word is exclusive devotion. Transcending these three gunas, one becomes eligible. Doesn't go there, but becomes eligible, yogi, for attaining Brahma. So you become worthiness, become worthy of attaining Brahma. The only time the Jeev has freedom to act is when he takes refuge in Ishwar. So please try to understand this. In Sansar, all prani are supported and controlled by the power of Devata. Okay? In chapter 3, Shlok 5, Bhagavan tells Arjuna, Karyate yavashah karma sarva prakritar jair guna. All are made to act helplessly. Okay? We are all made to act in the sansar helplessly. We can't help. We do things. Sometimes we don't want to do something, but it happens. And it's being done by the three gunas, which are born of Prakriti. You see, all Devata are simply nothing more than the powers of Prakriti. They all are classified under these three gunas. They all have names. And their actions are limited. They are controlled. That's what they can do. That's why they are called Nitya Baddha. They are eternal bondage. Any action we indulge into is assigned to one of these devata, one of these gunas, and then devata says this comes under this devata's jurisdiction or the other ones. According to the guna under which the action is classified, this is done by markings on the Jeev Swarup. The markings are called karma lep. Just like barcode is etched on there. And so as soon as Jeev Swarup is seen by Maya, sees avidya and Jeev and all these karma lep, it knows what is the next karma phal need to be administered and which devata is going to do it. And then Maya gives the order and the devata start to work. This is how all prani bhut are controlled by the gunas of Prakriti. These three gunas are the way, they are the mode of the Prakriti. That's how the Prakriti acts. Now hold this thought and let us go to Shlok 6 in chapter 4, where Bhagavan said, Prakriti swamidhisthaya sambhavaya atma mayaya. Here Bhagavan says, keeping my Prakriti under my control. The Prakriti is under Ishwar's control, i.e., I am the master of the Prakriti. I manifest myself through my own Maya, divine potency. So Ishwar is the master. So who is the Jnani? Jnani is the one who knows that who is the master is. He knows Ishwar is the master. he is never under any bondage. Master is never under any bondage. He controls everything. Whereas we, i.e. Jeev, are subject to the bondage of three gunas of Prakriti. Now let us go back to chapter 14, Shlok 26. Bhagavan says that by constantly worshipping me through the yoga of exclusive devotion, Ananya Bhakti, one can transcend the three gunas of Prakriti. In other words, he goes beyond the reach of these three gunas of Prakriti. In that state, and only in that state, Jeev has freedom to act. Any other time is under control of the three gunas of the Prakriti. And in that state, what action he does, the action by which he becomes eligible for attaining Brahm. What kind of action he does is the action by which, through which he becomes eligible, worthy of, for attaining the Brahm. So simply put, we all have a choice to either stay in sansar and continue karma, which results in the cycle of birth and death, or remaining in sansar, practice the Ananya Bhakti of Paramatma. These are the only two choices we have. To describe this chapter 16, in order to describe this particular phenomena, these are two choices, the chapter 16 came about. So here you have divine and demonical attributes. One is Ananya Bhakti of Ishwar, take you towards Ananya Bhakti of Ishwar. Other towards the Devta and bondage of three gunas and keeps you in sansar. So these are the only two choices. To describe this, Bhagavan had to tell chapter 16, three gunas. The way by which Jeev can get to Paramatma is described here. For this to happen, Jeev needs the wealth of certain attributes or properties. See, we have the wealth, then we can spend it to attain, to get there, to get that worthiness, earn that worthiness. If we don't, then we cannot earn that worthiness or even do the Ananya Bhakti. Then in chapter 16, Bhagavan has described how one needs to act outwardly so that these attributes can develop within us. We will see that in chapter 17. There Bhagavan describes three types of Shraddha and how to act under Sattva while avoiding Rajogun and Tamogun. Chapter 16 is a very straightforward chapter. Here the divine attributes are of the person described in chapter 13. These are the attributes of the Jeev that can go to the state of Brahma. Here Bhagavan has described 26 of such attributes. These properties are complementary to each other. So if there is one, the other also comes into play. First, Bhagavan describes these divine attributes which are for achieving moksha. Then the demonical attributes are described. Since these attributes are for achieving moksha, the divine ones, we must understand the following. Ishwar is everywhere. Okay, Sarva Vyapak, he is everywhere. Not just everywhere any way, he is Vyapak. He is there, pervading, all pervading. And Jeev can go anywhere. Jeev has freedom to go anywhere. So Jeev can enter Ishwar anywhere. So if somebody tells you that, well, you have to go up high up there in Swarg or beyond that to get Ishwar, they don't know what they're talking about. Ishwar is everywhere, and wherever Jeev is, can enter Ishwar anytime, anywhere. As soon as the avidya or the ignorance is separated from Jeev, he becomes one with Ishwar, wherever it is, wherever Jeev is, doesn't matter where he is. These divine qualities will come into us naturally by us doing Ishwar Bhakti. If we do Ishwar Ananya Bhakti, then these qualities will slowly, drop by drop, come in automatically. This must be exclusive devotion, Ananya Bhakti, and must be done constantly. It's not like I do it today, tomorrow I don't feel like doing, so I don't want to do it. Or, for this Ananya Bhakti, there are rules. You make rules that I want to do in the morning such time, this time, and then stick to it. Otherwise, it becomes Vyavicharani Bhakti. It's not Ananya Bhakti anymore. This consists of remembering him by doing his job. Doing this tap, doing the job is a tap. And devotion, which is sadhana, these attributes will become our nature. We will become like that. How this happens has been described by Bhagavan in chapter 13, Shlok 22. Upadrastat anmantach bharta bhokta maheshwara, he says. When a person does my job and his attention or his lakshya is only towards me, so his mind is totally concentrating on Ishwar Naam, which he is doing the job. Then for him, I become Upadrashta, a silent watcher. I watch over him like a mother is for an infant. I lend helping hand in case of his need. I also become a true guide, Hanumanta, to him. I become his sustainer, Bharta. He will never have anything to worry about. He'll get whatever he needs on time. From somewhere, somehow, he will get it. Because Ishwar is his Bharta. He sustains him. What is the biggest fear that one has is the fear of unknown. And what to do? Because we don't know, so we are afraid. What should we do? Nobody is sure what they want to do. So they go to somebody or emulate what somebody else has done it, copy them, try to do this happen, that happen, But we really don't know what to do. And that is a fear. However, once we establish a relationship with Ishwar through jap and tap, he himself becomes our well-wisher. He provides us with what we need, gives us permission, and protects us. These attributes do not come easily. We get these when we surrender to him. Okay, that's what Ananya Bhakti is. Total surrender to Ishwar. When one comes in this sansar with divine attributes, he comes with these 326 qualities, which are described in Shlok 1 through 3.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Abhayam Sattva Samshuddhi Jnana Yoga Vyavasthitihi Danam Damascha Yajñascha Swadhyayastapa Arjavam Ahimsa Satyam Tyagah Shantirapaishunam Daya Bhuteshvaloluptvam Mardavam Hrirachapalam Tejah Kshama Dhritih Shaucham Adroho Natimanita भवन्ति सम्पदं दैवीम् अभिजातस्य भारत.
Bhagavan says, Bharat, Arjun, Bhavanti Devimam Sampadam Abhijatasya. One born with divine properties has the wealth of these attributes. These are Abhayam, Shanti, Sattva Sanshuddhi, Apaishunam, Jnana Yoga Vivasthiti, Danam, Daya Bhuteshva, Dama, Aloluptam, Yajna, Mardavam, Swadhyaya, Ri, Tap, Achapalam, Arjavam, Tej, Ahimsa, Kshama, Satyam, Ghrati, Dhrati, Akrodha, Shaucham, Tyag, Adroh, Natimanata. So we will start describing these divine attributes with Swadhyaya. We'll take Swadhyaya first. This word has two parts. Swa meaning our own and Adhyayan meaning this to study. So to study, to learn about Jivatma is called Swadhyaya. Okay? To get the knowledge about ourselves, what we are, what Jiv is, that is called Swadhyaya. The biggest Swa is the Atma. The Atma becomes Vishwa, the universe. The root word for Vishwa is Swa. By adding the prefix V, it becomes Vishwa, meaning that Swa which has expanded everywhere. So our Atma can expand to cover the entire universe. Vinoba Bhave said that we need to work towards growing our Atma. That is why Gandhi ji was called Mahatma Gandhi. He became Mahatma by removing all barriers from within himself. He became blind to caste, religion. He saw no difference between any human being. He was not against the British, but what they did, he was against what they did. For Indians, they became desperados. And Bhagavan said that such entities must be destroyed. If we meet everywhere with love, or everyone with love and affection, and consider all as our family, it will result in our Atma to become Vishwa, the universal being. We become, that is what universal being is. Meaning of universal being is the Atma that has become universal. That is why it has been said, Ayam Nija Paroveti Ganana Lagu Chetasam Udara Charitanam Vasudaiva Kutumbakam. This is mine and this is of other people. Such counting is done by those small-hearted people. The one who is generous, large-hearted, noble, the one who is on the path to Ishwar, for him, the entire world is his family. Vasudaiva Kutumbakam. So, the study of Atma, not to study on your own, is Swadhyaya. Okay? When people say Swadhyaya, well, I'm going to sit and study on my own. Huh? That's Swadhyaya. That's not what Swadhyaya means here. Swadhyaya means to study about the Atma. Know what Atma is. Now we take Tap. Tap has been defined as practicing bhakti with penance and religious austerity. It is doing tapasya. In other words, to deny oneself sense gratification in both physical meaning as well as mental meaning through karmendriya and jnanendriya. So, what does this mean? It is quite simple. All our karma are assigned to Devta that rewards us with the fruit of or the consequences of that karma. This happens when the time for it is right. However, if through some activity we expose ourselves to some pain spiritually, adhyatmik kasht, then we have done this ourselves instead of Devta doing to us. So Devta is gonna give us the fruit of the action. But if we, and most of the fruit of the action is really dukh, pain, very little which is pleasure. So if by giving our pain to ourselves through tap, we negate what Devta is going to do. Okay? So instead of Devta doing it, we do it. This is called tapasya, tapascharya. Such a person who is called tapasvi. This is the person who called tapasvi. He does give pain to himself, not in any general term, but he knows what he is doing. Okay, he does tap. This practice of tap bears pain through activities he performed for his Lord Parmeshwar. Now there are all kind of tap that people do. In Devta Bhakti, there are different kind of tap. Vrat is also a tap, right? Some people stand on one leg for so long. That is tap, right? Some people carry some weight and goes around temple so many times. That's their way of doing tap. These are all Devta, Bhakti tap. But in Parmeshwar, the tap is to control your mind and put it towards Parmeshwar and do his job. That is the main tap. That is the only tap, and that is Bhakti. Generally, while suffering, people constantly complain of the pain. Right? That is the general thing what happens. We got pain, we complain about it. But the one doing the tap bears the discomfort and pain with a smile on his face because he has chosen to do this in the name of his Lord. Nobody else is doing it, he is chosen to do this. This tap can be physical, bodily tap, mental, or it can be through the feeling or sentiment, bhavana. In chapter 17, Shlok 14 and 15 and 16, Bhagavan has described tap or the penance of the body, speech, and of the mind. Yagna, next attribute we take is yagna. It includes worship of Parmeshwar or that of Devta. This is usually done as a 5-step worship or 16-step worship. Panchopchar or Shodshopchar. Now we take Arjavam, the divine property Arjavam. Arjavam comes from the word Arjav. Arjav means to be straightforward. And the root word for Arjav is Riju. So Arjun word comes from Arjav. So Arjun was very straightforward, uncomplicated person. He was saying straight exactly what he is thinking. Not any other Pandav were not. Only Arjun was, who was very straightforward. He will ask the question right away and ask the right question, and he has nothing, what you call, nothing, he wasn't hiding anything. He's straightforward. So that's Arjav. That's a quality which is a divine quality. Next is Dhamma. This means to control the senses. It includes the controlling or restraining the body as well as the mind. One needs to exercise restraint on the impulse of the mind. Without it, the society will perish. It will face perils, problems. Everyone will say that everything belongs to them. Today, people are told not to suppress, which will result in lawlessness. You got to control them, okay? If a person will not exercise self-restraint, the society will restrain him. That's what the laws are made. This is a prerequisite for civility in the society. This is a divine attribute. However, one needs to exercise it reasonably, a reasonable restraint. One must take a stand if he is being treated unfairly. This brings up the next attribute, which is Tej. Tej is complementary to Dham. Tej is in case of the truth, one needs to show strength. That's what Tej is. If you are on the right, you must be strong. This is a divine attribute. It is proper to practice suppression or Daman. However, there needs to be a limit to it. Do not let it become irrational. There, take a stand. When it becomes irrational, take a stand. That's what Tej is. Otherwise, people will not take you seriously. Tej is that quality of eminent people. Shresht Purush is that quality of eminent people which enables those who are engaged in actions of sensual pleasure and are of inferior prakriti. So those people, it enables them to change themselves to do noble deeds by looking at those eminent people. This is the quality of the eminent people. Next, we take Abhayam. It is the state in which there is a lack of fear. To apprise us of the nature of this state, it is essential to know what fear is. Fear is cowardly, though due to the presence of apprehension, okay, ashanka, which is caused due to the separation of or the lack of desirable activity and union with the undesirable activity. So one person, when is not doing the Isht Kriya or desirable activity, but is engaged into doing undesirable activity, he is apprehensive. So he is afraid then. For example, the fear of losing respect, losing money or property, fear of defamation. These are all fears, bhaya, insult, and that of ghosts, etc. The biggest fear is the fear of death. The lack of such fear is abhayam. He is fearless, he has no fear. Now, when there is no fear, there is no violence. Violence is because of fear. This brings us to the next divine property, ahimsa. Like abhay, ahimsa is not something that exists. Like abhay, which is the lack of fear, ahimsa represents the lack of violence. Both are negative. The positive thing is bhaya. Bhaya is real in sansar. But abhay is opposite to bhaya. Hinsa is real in sansar and lack of hinsa is ahimsa. Both the fear and violence do exist, so not to exercise violence is ahimsa. The violence has three forms. These are mental, that of speech, and physical. Not to listen to the other's point of view comes under violence. In this, the ignorant and the learned both are equal. It is because they are unable to communicate. The ignorant cannot communicate, and very highly learned person also unable to communicate because his level of communication is different. So he is not able to communicate with anybody. Other person doesn't know how to communicate, so he cannot communicate. So both extremes have this problem. We witness violence all the time. Next is sattva sanshuddhi. Here the word sattva denotes antakaran. It is home to the pair of opposite. Antakaran is the home to the pair of opposite or dvand. These includes attachment or rag, aversion. These are the pair of opposite, attachment and aversion. Enmity, which is called dvesh, pain and pleasure. Pain and pleasure are pair of opposite. They exist in our antakaran. The lack of sinful thought and action which are caused by these pair of opposite is called sattva sanshuddhi. When our antakaran is free of these opposites, then that is called sattva sanshuddhi. Sattva means antakaran, sanshuddhi means is become purified. What is the result of such purity of the antakaran? It results in the next divine attribute, Gyan Yoga Vyavasthiti. Gyan is knowing the truth about Ishwar Swarup. Action performed with Gyan are correct actions and they result in the union with Ishwar. Yog means Karma Yoga, and to constantly remain situated in Ishwar Dhyan to get Gyan is called Yog Vyavasthiti. This is related to the next attribute called Satyam. Satyam, the truth, is the basis of all existence. Nothing will exist or can be accomplished without the truth. Truth does exist. Then there is a Krodh. The one with purity of antakaran situated in the yoga, having Gyan, is truthful and imparts abhay to others. Such a person will possess the property of akrodh, the absence of anger. Now comes Dan. Danam, giving, is also a divine attribute. There is a way to give, and that is a quality. How to give, that is also an attribute. The correct way to give is not to want anything in return. That is what giving means. This gives rise to what is called tyag. There's another divine quality. All our disputes in sansar is because of the lack of tyag. Nobody wants to give anything up. They want more. Lahore. But don't take anything from me. Tyag has Gyan and the truth. Both are included in Tyag. A person who understands Tyag knows that he does not have any ownership in the sansar. He doesn't own anything. So the Gyan is within the Tyag. With this, it is easy to practice Tyag. It will become clear with the following story. This is the old story. There are two women fighting over a child. One of them had stolen the child of the other one. However, both were claiming that the child is theirs. They went to King Vikramaditya for justice. The king said, since both of you can claim that this child is yours, what we will do, we will cut the child into two equal halves and give one part to one and the other part to the other one. Because we don't know whose child it is. Both say, this is my child, you say it's your child. We'll give a half to each one of you. Hearing this, one woman screamed not to cut the child up. Give this child to the other woman. Here, the bhav is that of Tyag. If the mother did not do the Tyag, the child would have died. The king understood who the mother is. So a Jnani understands that guna guneshu vartante itmatva na sajjate. It is the gun in the shape of senses that move among the gun or the object of the perception. Knowing this, the Jnani does not get attached to them. He just watches them happen. Thus, he practices Tyag. Not getting attached to anything is also a Tyag. So, asang is the integral part of Tyag. Bhagavan told Arjun to use asang as the weapon to cut a path through a Ashwath tree. To get out of the sansar and to conquer the sansar, you have to practice Tyag. What we get from Tyag is the next attribute, Shanti. We get Shanti or peace. What is Shanti like? It can be understood from the following example. A bird had a piece of flesh. Whenever it sat to eat, several other birds came and started to snatch it away. This went on for a while. The bird got tired and let the piece of flesh go. This is one example of Tyag, from which the bird got Shanti. She didn't have to worry about it. Thus, Shanti can be defined as the satisfaction or delight in an undermanaged, vikshipt rahit mind or antakaran upon a total absence of thought of the sansar. When the antakaran or our mind is totally away from the thought of the sansar and the mind is in total pure control, then that gives a peace. That is what the peace is, satisfaction. That satisfaction is Shanti. Bhagavan has described this in chapter 2. Vihaya kaman sarvan pumansh charit nispraha. It says, Nirmamo nirahankara sa shanti madhigachati. That person who lives devoid of longing, who has abandoned all desires and moved free from attachment, egoism and thirst for enjoyment, attains Shanti. This is the description of the Brahmi Sthiti. That is the ultimate Shanti. Next comes apaishanam. This also consists of negation. A positive side of this is called pishunuta. It is to see fault in others. That's what pishunuta is. Or to divulge them to other people, telling somebody how bad the other person is. Telling, not only knowing the fault and dwelling on it, but he also shares the fault, other people's fault, to somebody else. Simply put, it means to defame or denigrate someone. Those who do this are lacking peace within. Because they are not peaceful within, they do this kind of activity. The absence of pishunuta is apaishanam. Next attribute also consists of negation. It is aloluptvam. It is the opposite of being lolup. Lolup meaning being envious or greedy. When senses unite with their object to get affixed or attached to that state and to crave for experiencing the sense gratification which others are enjoying is called lolupta. Lolupta. Negating this is aloluptvam. So if somebody is having something and they are enjoying some sense gratification and the other person sees it, that person also wants to experience the same situation, same pleasure. That is lolup. And not to worry about it, just be within yourself, then you can be a lolup. Next comes daya bhuteshu. To be compassionate to other beings. This comes naturally with ahimsa and abhay. When you have ahimsa or abhay, then it will be natural. Next is mardavam or gentleness, speaking gently, not getting upset, not getting overly angry and stuff like that. Just mardavam, gentleness. Then comes Ri. Ri is for modesty. So one who is gentle is also modest. Achapalam, the absence of fickleness. Chapalta. So they should be steady, not fickle. Fickleness is the sign of Rajogun. You want something today this, tomorrow the other thing, and never satisfied. Having Satogun, this person remains steady in his action. Then comes Kshama. It is the attribute of forgiveness, forgiving others' mistake, but not bending over backwards. Do this while maintaining tej. Okay? Then comes Dhriti, the fortitude. Do not act in a hurry and do not get distracted by anything. Hold on to your dharma. That's dhriti. Shaucham, maintaining the purity of mind, speech and body. Adroh, it is the absence of malice. Droh is a bad thing, is positive, but adroh is absence of malice. It is different from anger. Anger is temporary, but the malice can continue for generation. See? The droh goes on from one generation to next generation, then the other one generation takes revenge from somebody else. This is droh. Nati manyata, it is the absence of pride or dambha, which is a demonical property. We should note that many of these divine properties represent the absence of demonical attributes. So Bhagavan says, Bhavanti Sampada Devim Abhijatasya Bharata. He says that, Arjun, these are the attributes of the one who is born with divine gifts. We should pray that our karma be such that they will lead us to such divine attributes. Born with these attributes, we will be able to achieve moksha. Next time we will take up the description of the demonical properties. Sri Krishna.